Welcome one and all to the Síle Show. It is so good to be back with you for another truly heart-opening conversation. My guest today is someone that I've only recently met, but I already deeply admire her work. She has spent decades helping people to find their way back to peace of mind, to clarity, and to themselves. Coming home to ourselves is such a gift. God is forever there. She's a true master of mindset and emotional freedom, and she herself is in fact the creator of the Stress Solution System. Deirdre Maguire's journey is one of immense courage and transformation. After losing her father to suicide and later facing her own cancer diagnosis, she chose to be refined rather than defined by her pain. From that experience, she built an extraordinary life and practice, guiding others to do what she did to move through her suffering, which is to find meaning and to reclaim their power. With a background in education and over 30 years of experience as a life coach, NLP practitioner and faster EFT master practitioner, Deirdre has distilled her life's learning into a simple but profound truth. And that is that we can change our minds. And when we do, we change everything. Today, we'll be exploring what healing really means, not as something we chase or wait for, but as something that is already happening within us. We're going to discuss how functional breath, a sense of connection, and of course, growth mindset are the pathway to enlightenment itself. On the other side of fear is love. Settle in, guys. This is going to be an inspiring conversation with someone who lives and breathes oneness. Deirdre, the warmest of Síle Show welcomes.
I am so excited to be here and so excited to share the synchronicity of life. It's just, what an adventure.
I know, it's amazing. With the roller and the rover. The day we met, it was so funny.
Would you tell the story?
So, I'm parking my car. We're going to an event. We don't know each other from Adam. And I'm sitting on in my car because I'm actually in touch with the production company here, getting a post out for a clip from one of our interviews. And when I parked my car, I was tight to the car in front, and there might have been a car behind, I'm not too sure. But obviously, I'm on my phone for a while, as one does, and the car in front had moved, so there was space. And along comes this beautiful Range Rover, and I have a roller in my hair because I'm getting ready as I'm going up the road. And this gorgeous lady asks me, could I possibly move my car up a little bit? You know, because it looks like Síle is taking over the world and she's taking up enough space for an articulated truck. And it was love at first sight. We literally just, from that moment, we went up in each other's company to the event. Needless to say, I moved my car to make room for gorgeous you.
Yep.
And we literally never stopped talking for the rest of the night.
So my side of it was that I was going to the event, so I'm looking for a place to park, and I've already been round twice. You didn't know that. I had already been round twice. So then I come round and there's a gap, and then I see this car, Mercedes Southern Reg, and I think, oh, she doesn't know where she is. And the car's taken 2 car parking spaces. And I thought, at that moment, I actually thought, now, I haven't seen you at this stage. I've just seen the car and the registration. And I'm thinking, she's going to the same event. Now, I don't even know. I can see that it's a woman. But, so I think, I bet she's going to the same thing. Is she going to move up? Will I have the courage? So I make a conscious decision to parallel park beside you, roll up beside you, look in and ask you, with the intention of asking you, could you nudge forward a wee bit? And I see this vision of this beautiful woman with the roller in her fringe. And I think, that is a woman after my own heart. I am going to like this woman. So I sort of sign, could you move up a wee bit? And you move up. It's so funny. Did we roll down the window and speak to each other?
We
actually
briefly
did.
I was actually, it's better than that. I was getting out of my car when you were rolling up with said roller in the group.
Right.
And I'm going around, cheeky as you like, to get my coat and all my bits and pieces.
Yes.
So going to take up time and everything while I'm taking up this huge big space.
Yes.
So then we chatted. and the energies just synced immediately. Needless to say, I made the bit of space. You parked your car as if we were old friends. I waited for you, almost like we knew we were going to the same event.
That's right. That actually happened.
And
yes.
It was like, just as you do, as if you were with your pal and you were travelling in convoy, and you go, oh, look at this, we got places beside each other, and off we went.
That's right.
The funniest thing is, by the time the end of the evening came, we linked, and I linked into you just automatically.
Yes.
It's those lovely moments in life when you meet somebody that is of your tribe, that before you even speak to them, you know they understand the language you use. And so it's seamless to chat and to spend time and to be in their company. And we ended up standing on the side of the road like lovers might. You know, who's going to go first? No, you hang up, you hang up. And we chatted and we talked, and we had long since then decided we were going to do this interview, and it was au revoir, not goodbye. So it was easier. But we've been in touch then ever since. And it really does feel, in my opinion, like we've known each other for so long.
I know, it is so interesting. And one of the things that comes to mind as we're sharing about it now is that this is what I tell my clients about, even people who are in the lowest point. You don't know what's coming next. You have no idea what's coming next. You have no idea what life has planned for you. And there's such a freedom in that. You know, that has been a game changer for me. When I figured that out, when I heard it from someone or it landed in my life, when you don't know, you don't need to know. So what if it's just amazing? What if it's incredible? And it's hard to think about that when you're at what seems to be the lowest point. But when you engage with that belief system, and that's what, to me, life is about. It's deciding on a belief system. It's engaging with it and surrendering to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you surrender to it, you don't have to figure it out anymore.
Yeah.
You're free.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it is that handing it over with the belief that it is going to be okay. So you do have to put some trust into place. Like that's probably when we would attend any one of your seminars or your retreats. That's what we would probably get from it, Deirdre. If we're not somebody who's already on that journey, I would imagine we need somebody like you to steer us and help us believe that there is actually a faith practice around it, you know, a belief in it that they can just tap into. But they might need your guidance because you've had lots of life experience that taught you that in a very raw way.
Well, what I say now to clients, to friends, to people, to anybody who listen, is that faith is believing what you can't yet see. That's actually the definition of faith, because faith in itself asks you to believe what you can't yet see. And that's where the freedom is, because the opposite of that is trying to anticipate everything. And, you know, another word for that is stress, worry, fear, whatever. So when you get this peace, you know, and literally I could say that's really only come to me comparatively recently. I've been doing this work for 20 years or more, 25 years. And it's actually almost 30 years now. When I think about it now, it's actually 30 years ago that I really started, you know, seeking my own answers. I am my own first client. That's what I tell people now. I was the toughest. My toughest client was my first one, and that was me. But when... if I could have had this piece, but that's the synchronicity of life.
Yes.
But now I can fast track somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, you can borrow my belief because I've been there, done it, and got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
No.
Borrow my belief in you is such a beautiful place to start. And when people go on your retreats or attend any of your special courses, you've got an elite course, you've got your stress system solutions. What is your promise? Because that is your mantra, is that you promise.
Well, it's so funny. My tagline, my mantra is your freedom is my promise. And, I remember back in the day when I was, when you're building and you're trying to figure it all out, and I was building my website, and this was my third attempt at it, the third person. So this was a lovely girl, a Canadian girl, and we were talking about the content and everything, and she was saying, do this, do that, do the other, and giving me all kinds of her expertise. And then we came to the tagline, and so I was the student, and she was the expert. So I was listening to everything she said, and I always remember this moment because, and she said, so what's your tagline? And I said, your freedom is my promise. Oh, we can't use that. And I said, well, what's wrong with it? And she said, no. You can't make that promise to people. You actually can't promise that. And I remember the switch. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where you take on there's another aspect of you comes to life, and you go, no, I'll take over from here.
Yeah.
Because I know that is the truth, that your freedom is my promise. If you do this work and do it, you don't have to figure it out, because I figured it out.
Yeah.
So just, kind of do what you're told.
Yeah. You do what you do best, and allow me do what I do best. And you're accessing those subtler energy chakras, the subtler energy centers that we don't all get into, but you'd obviously got to there. So you believed. You had the belief enough in self to know, if you do the digital work, I can bring that as my promise. I can bring that freedom to my clients, because you had accessed it yourself.
Well, my journey has brought me to a whole lot of different places, and it really started with my father, the pain of my father's, observing my father's pain and not being able to help him. And so I'm the eldest of 5, and my mother and father, neither of them were educated, but they both had what we now know is called, a burning desire. They had a desire for more, for better. So they were very driven, very hardworking, and they opened a furniture business. I was born Friday the 13th of April. And on Friday the 13th of April, my 6th birthday, my parents opened the family business. And we moved in above it. And there were, at that stage, there were 5 of us in one room. And, they were so driven by the hunger for success and for something better. They just wanted more, they wanted better, they wanted more for us. And so my father, I would describe him as a workaholic. And then it seemed that he became an alcoholic. And today, personally, I don't believe in alcoholism. I believe that using alcohol as a solution to a problem is definitely available. But when you solve the problem, then the need for the alcohol disappears. So I was very close to my father, and I watched him working so hard, and both of them. And then when he was 72, he took his own life. And, I had made it my mission to save my dad, and nothing had worked. So as, the coffin's disappearing into the cold January earth, I have only one truth left, that I had failed. And that was the lowest point in my life. But as I say to people now, what if the lowest point, and I think we all know this, the lowest point is actually the turning point. It always is.
Yeah.
When you're at your lowest, know that that's the turning point. Yeah. Go with it. Because the turning point is just around the corner. So the lowest point is the moment where you say, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So that is actually the turning point. So that was the turning point in my life. One of the turning points. The days and weeks and months that followed my father's death were just like an emotional blur, going from sadness to guilt to even my own suicidal thought. But always one constant, the search.
Yeah.
the search for answers. Why did my dad have to die?
Yeah.
Like, is death the only solution to unresolved emotional pain? And today I'm very happy to report that it is not the only solution. Today I've never been older, never fitter, never happier, because I know that happiness is a skill. That, I believe we were born with joy, but life, the journey of life is to challenge us on how serious we are in wanting it.
And it socialises that essence out of us from the very second we arrive into the world. We begin that journey of separation from wholeness, from source energy. So that separation anxiety, potential for, in terms of our own phenotype, in terms of the miasms within us, our own tendencies energetically, we will feel it, feel the separation from source more in terms of who we are.
Do you know, it's funny you're saying that, Síle, because I remember, in all the pain of, why did Daddy have to die? My mother loved him. We all loved him. There were 5 of us. There were 5 grandchildren at that stage. He was a popular man. There are people who still talk in my town about your father was a great man. So why was none of that enough? Why was that not enough? And ultimately, that was the conclusion that I came to. Through all the pain and all the anger and all the shouting at the world, why did my dad have to die? Why is he not here? The answer that ultimately came to me was that he needed to go back home. That actually, if you imagine that, my father had been drinking the day he died, he went into a river and weighted himself down with a breeze block and drowned himself. And he had been drinking that day. So you could very easily look at that and say, well, there was something wrong with him. He was an alcoholic. You could say that. You could say, I remember one woman actually saying to me, I didn't know your father had a weakness in his mind. There are so many ways that you could describe that. I like the one that says, and this is my truth for me, that and because of all the experience I have now with working with so many people, I've worked across the world with so many different people, so I understand the mind. I can see how a mind works over and over and over again. That's what I do over and over. The next person comes and I see a mind. I think, how's this one doing it?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. And, when I think about my father and I think about his mind, and it was a mind that was hungry to go home and couldn't be here anymore. So that was a solution for him.
Yeah.
And my journey then was to take that pain and turn it around and somehow make it work for me, make my life work for me. And I'm very happy to report that it is possible. You can do it. Do I have a perfect life today? I have my challenges. I have the days when I waken up and think, oh God, what's going on today? But the difference is that I have a capacity to be able to change it, to shift it, or even to make peace with it.
Yes.
To actually make peace with, this is where we're at today. Yeah. Today we feel vulnerable, alone, old, scared, guilty, angry, whatever it is, whatever the emotion is. But can I keep company with it?
Sure.
In a non-judgmental way?
Yeah. Can I hold space? Guys, we have had over 500,000 hits in just 2.5 months. We are buzzing and we are so grateful. Now, I'm sure, like me, you know somebody right now who needs to hear what we've just been chatting about. So go on, share it. Consider it like an investment in the emotional bank account in the sky. Keep liking, reviewing, sharing. Let's keep those algorithms rising with us. Remember, subscribing to us is vibing with us. We're manifesting. So jump on, hit subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, surf the moment with us. There's plenty to go around. All you have to do is click that subscribe button, crack open our moment, and make it yours too. Because the mind is the brain in motion, as you say, so it really is your body. Your mind is your body. Whereas, you ask a child in school, I was teaching for 30 years, you were in education for 30 years as well. We've so much in common.
I know.
And you say to a child, where is your brain? And they'll point up. You say, where is your mind? And, oh, same, is it? Your mind is actually your body because it's your brain in motion. And it's therefore, it's the mind, body, brain collective that we sometimes don't understand.
Yeah.
And that's the separation. The body can then take on what we might call sickness, malaise. That's just the servant becoming the master, because we're trying to get that message through our mind from spirit that we're out of kilter. We are in that space of separation. And I think, given the chat we had last week and the chats we've had throughout the week, and this just sense of knowing that I feel we have, because a lot of people have been to similar places, although they've never had those chats, but they've maybe learned this similar lessons in the super classroom of their lives. Their curriculums were somewhat the same, and so they come out just recognizing each other in a crowd. It's like, like that moment when we looked through the window at each other, we just knew, okay, the roller, and
it was funny.
Yeah, the whole roller fur coat, it was hilarious, and the whole, girls on tour kind of thing. But also there's something deeper that we just connected. The nervous systems were syncing in that moment.
Absolutely.
And we just understood that we understood each other's language. And I think what I'm hearing, Deirdre, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you perhaps in your lifetime, given other experiences as well, have got to a point where you no longer fear death to the same extent you may have done before. So that separation anxiety that you might have experienced all your life in different spaces and places, in different relationships, different situationships, same lesson presenting itself over and over again through different people, through different experiences, until you finally realised, I need to learn how to come home to myself, and home is in my heart. Because your house can have no roof per se, for want of a better phrase, as in the house that you live in, or the job that you're in, or the marriage that you're in, or the friend groups that you find yourself in, may be like a house with no roof. They may be windy and dark and challenging and hostile, until you realise that you can come home to yourself. And I think when you experience that level of loss, it gives you that chance to realise, I need to regroup here. Where is home?
Yeah, and that wasn't the end of my journey, because I after Daddy's death, and I was just seeking. I was fortunate enough to have found 12-step recovery through Al-Anon 3 years before Daddy died, and that's another story in itself. And so I had that effectively under my belt, which is what I would describe a healthier belief system than the one that I had previously been living from. Because the one I had previously lived from was basically, if you're a good girl, you get into heaven, and if you're bad, you go to hell. And that literally was my belief system. That's what my culture had given me. That's what my religion had given me. So I had found something else, that there was a power greater than myself, and that this power was a non-judgmental one. And so I was starting to make inroads. And then my father died. So there was the big test. Now, where are you? What's your truth? What's your truth now? How do you make sense of that? So I spent a lot of time, being very, very resentful of, people talking about spiritual awareness and about, spiritual benevolence. And I think, yeah, that's all right for you. But yeah, well, where's my dad? Why did that, why did my dad not get that? And so then that was the next level of the journey, to make peace with that. And which is what I teach now, that, the solution to every problem is the same. how can I look at this differently? And so I had to figure out how to reframe that. And so I did. And I really learned very painfully. You know, I just have memories now of one of the stories I tell is about the time that I was trying to get Daddy to go to an AA meeting. I was trying to get Daddy sober. You know, my father was such a great worker and such a great man. He never missed a day off work. And we actually worked together in the family business. I had been a teacher and left teaching, and I believe its unfinished emotional business brought me back to my father's shop and my mother and father's business. And so I was working there. I went in for 6 weeks and ended up staying 20 years. And but I was working on a daily basis with my father. And so I was watching him self-destruct. And there was nothing I could seemingly do about it. But, you know, I would die trying. So I finally got him to go to an AA meeting. And I remember, you know, taking him up to Belfast. I contacted AA, and the young fella answered the phone, Pat. And I said to him, now, Pat, I want a good meeting. This is all about control, okay? I'll tell you that before we start. So look at this through the lens of you need to control everything. So maybe you'll identify with this. So I said to Pat, I want a good one, Pat. And he said, well, dearie, there's a good one on the Lisburn Road. And I'll meet you there. So my brother, myself, and my father drove from Newcastle to Belfast. And we got to the meeting, and this is the level of codependency, which actually means, in case you don't know, when you're a codependent, when you suffer from codependency, what it means is that your sense of value comes from someone else. So if my father was in good form, I was in good form. If my father was in bad form, I was in bad form. So I depended on him. So I was so codependent with my father that when Pat at the door of the AA meeting said, okay, Deirdre, we'll take it from here, I went, what do you mean? And he said, you don't need to go in. And I said, you don't understand. You know, I know what he'll tell you, but I need to tell you the truth. I'm the one who knows the truth when I think about it now. And so, you know, Pat said, no, we'll just leave it. You go up the road and get a wee cup of tea and come back, and we'll take care of your dad. And so I thought, okay. So I reluctantly surrendered to that. And so I went up the road, had a cup of tea, and I couldn't even drink the tea. I was that high on the fact that I was getting something done, that there was progress being made. I would get my dad to an AA meeting. They would sort him out, and could go back to living. And so at the end of the meeting, I was sitting waiting for my father to come out. And so I drove up, and there was my dad, and he was shaking hands with everybody. And I thought, oh my God, he's done a number he's worked his personality, and they all think he's great, and nobody knows the truth, only me. And so my father walked out past, and Pat, I'm waiting for Pat, and Pat says, I said, well, and he said, Deirdre, I think your father has a wee bit to go yet before he's ready. And I remember, and I've often shared this story, and I've often said that at that point, I could never tell the story without crying at that moment, because that moment indicated the level of dependency of my well-being, that I only felt good if he was good, and he was telling me this is not going to happen. And that was the lowest point. Mm-hmm. People often think it must have been when your dad took his own life, but it wasn't. That was the moment. That was the lowest point. That was the moment where I said, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I can't do this anymore. That was the breakdown that was the breakthrough. So Pat started to tell me the story about his life, and he was an AA member. He had been, inverted commas, alcoholic. And he said to me, in that moment, he said to me, what about you, Deirdre? And I went, me? Me? There's nothing wrong with me. If he would get sober, I'd be okay. And Pat told me his story. And he told the story about waking up in a hospital in London. And for the first time, his mother was not at the end of the bed. And he said, today, he said, I am happily married to a beautiful woman. I have a beautiful son. I built a beautiful home. The mother that I tortured for years, I now bring my son to visit. But he said, Deirdre, if I lost all of that, I would still have myself. And there was a part of me had no idea what he was talking about, the codependent part. And yet my soul was crying for it. My soul knew exactly what he was talking about. Because that's the part that says, okay, I'll do whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. I'll do whatever it takes. So he said to me that time, he said, you know, your dad's going to say a couple of things. One, he'll say, God bless those critters in there. And the second thing he'll say is, thank you very much. And the next time I go, I'll go on my own. So we got into the car and we're driving up, and I'm in the back seat, my father's in the passenger seat, my brother's driving. And we pull up outside my house. At that stage, I lived in Belfast. And my father said, you know, God help those critters in there. And I went, they're tick one. And then as I was getting out of the car, he said, thank you very much to both of you for bringing me. The next time I go, I'll go on my own. And I went, I'm going to listen to Pat. Pat must know what he's talking about. So my sister called me about 20 minutes later and she said, well, and I said, and this is the mad merry-go-round, the insanity of this type of pain, where we're all in it. You know, there's one person in the middle and everybody else is circulating round. And my sister said, well, and I said, I don't know. I'm done. I don't know what happened to Daddy, and I'm not telling you any more about it. I'm finished. And then I called my brother when he got home, and I said, where's Daddy? And he said, where do you think he is, Deirdre? Where do you want him to be? And I knew that I wanted him to be at home. And my brother said, he's in the pub. So that was it. I said, right. So that started my journey into 12-step recovery, into for Al-Anon, family and friends of alcoholics. And that was the start of the journey into a healthier belief system. Mm-hmm. You know, I was 10 years in Al-Anon, in 12-step recovery, because it was a home for my spirit. It fed into my soul, my spirit. Mm-hmm. And it's almost impossible to explain it until you go. So if you're somebody who's listening to this and you're in that pain, I highly recommend that you get into 12-step recovery of some description, because it will start to feed your soul. Mm-hmm. That's what my work is based on. You know, ultimately I created, you know, the stress solution system, which is a culmination of everything that I've learned over the last 20 years. But that's where its foundation is. That's where it started, from that pain of not being able to see any other way out, mm-hmm. finding a way out, dealing with the pain, and building a belief system that worked for me, that serves me on a daily basis.
Sure.
What if, you know, the message that I carry today is the message that my father carried through all the pain, through the suicide, through everything else. The message is actually that we are continuously evolving, that we are hungry to go home to our own soul, and that it is possible to find it. You know?
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing, Deirdre, and so poignantly shared and candidly shared, and so relatable, even if you haven't experienced exactly that level of pain body experience, because we all go in and out of our pain body all our lives, depending on how well we're adjusting to our environment or not. It won't be a story like that necessarily for everybody, but it's still very relatable. The fact that you bring it back to the kind of the silent howl of soul not knowing where home is, I think everybody can hang their pain on that story, and then they can take a steer from your story to realise that happiness is an inside job, and that no matter what happens on the outside, to point them in the direction of that, they must get on that journey then.
Well, what I say to people today, the people who work with me, the people who, in various ways, all the different various ways that I do deliver this work, is the story may be different, but the pain is the same. You know, every story that I hear from clients in various ways, none of the stories are identical, but the pain's the same.
Sure.
And when you get that you are unique, no matter what your story is, you are unique. Your soul is unique, but your shit isn't.
Yeah.
Your stuff isn't. Your story isn't. Don't hide in the shame of the story.
Yeah.
Because no matter what your story is, and I've heard them all,
Yes.
no matter what your story is, there is a way out.
Sure. And it can even begin by just recognising that it is the story that you've attached to the stuff of your life, that you can begin even by just changing the story, change the narrative. That playlist in your brain, if you stay in the same story, you will probably stay stuck in your pain body. And pain is subjective. So you spoke very eloquently there about hitting your rock bottom. You know when your rock bottom is. And again, for anybody listening who's trying to relate and really wants their emancipation, like obviously whenever the lesson is needed, the teacher will appear. So there'll be somebody somewhere peeling their potatoes in their kitchen, wherever, or out for their walk, or in their car, and they'll hear this. And it'll be their time. It'll be the time of many, many people when they hear this to begin their journey of discovery. And exactly as you say, it'll come from a different set point, because my rock bottom and yours won't be the same. I don't maybe necessarily have to bump into the wall to change direction. I might just not have to go that low. But I will hear this and I will realise I have some work to do. I'm feeling constrained and I need to be free.
I think the low is the low, but it may not look like the same low. You know, you would think, listening to that, okay, she hit her low and then her life changed. Life hadn't finished, because, you know, on my own particular journey, I started then to seek answers, and I found them. And, I became a life coach. I had helped myself first, and now I was going to help others. I remember the first time I got paid by a client, and I, pinned the check to the notice board, and I said out loud, "What do you think of that, Dad?" I swear to God, I thought I heard him say, "Deirdre, have I taught you nothing about cash?" But then a weirdly special gift arrived, and it was not from Amazon Prime. It was cancer. A cancer diagnosis, and what I say now is, I remember, the solemn face of the doctor declaring that surgery would be first, followed by chemotherapy, then radiation. That's not what I remember most. What I remember most is not that there was a possibility that I was actually going to die. What I remember most is that I hadn't lived. I was 56, and I was just like my father before me. Stress, the posh word for fear, had been driving me all my life, just like my father before me. So now was the time for me to put my money where my mouth was. Now was the time for me to put everything I had learned about personal power and transformation to the test. So I did. I said yes to the surgery, and I said no to the chemotherapy and radiation. And it was the biggest no of my life. But it was the biggest yes to my truth, that you can have control over your mind, your body, and most of all, your spirit. You know, all that was 13 years ago. And like I say today, I've never been older, never fitter, never happier. Because I know that what I've said before, happiness is a skill. And I always want to qualify that with, you know, the journey that I had with cancer is not about whether you say yes or no to chemotherapy and radiation. That's not. Chemotherapy is good. It works for people, you know. If it works for you, it's good for you. That's your journey. Everybody's journey is different. It's the lessons.
Yeah.
You know, that was my lesson at that moment. And it, you know, it wasn't just easy. You didn't just say no and there you go. I had lots of lessons, daily lessons every day, you know, for a long time after it. I was terrified that I had said no. I hadn't been the good girl. I had been the bold girl. I had done I hadn't done the right thing. The right thing was to do what you're told.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done the right thing. But that was my journey. And, you know, people often say the test is, if you look back, would you change any of it? And there are definitely parts of it that I would say, no thanks, I'll pass that this time. But hey ho, it all happened. It got me to here.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very, very grateful for everything that I have in my life today. And I suppose that's the litmus paper on it. That's the test.
Yeah.
You know, how do you feel right now, Deirdre? Well, I'm buzzing. I am just buzzing. Look who has turned up in my life. You know, a few weeks ago, I didn't even know you existed.
Yeah.
And now this is here. You're here, and this is beautiful, and it's amazing. I met these lovely guys this morning.
Yeah.
It's all such a beautiful experience on a really, really wet and windy day in Ireland. And I was actually, you know, I was driving down today, and I just was buzzing. I was just saying out loud, and I do this often, and I recommend other people give it a go. Just thank you. Thank you. It's blowing a bloody gale.
Yeah.
And I am driving down in my car, in my lovely car, with my lovely clothes on, in my lovely mindset, with my great health. You know, I've got, you know, money in my pocket. I've got, you know, friends on my phone who are messaging me. I've got so much that's so good in my life. You know, in a week when somebody stole my oil somebody stole the oil out of my tank. I bought heating oil 3 weeks ago, and it's, you know, it's gone. And so we figured out that somebody's been actually stealing
Siphoning off,
the oil.
for goodness sake.
But to have the capacity
Yeah.
that, you know, not to catastrophize that, not to use that as proof that the world is difficult, to be able to turn it around, to be able to turn it around is such a skill and such a gift. And then to be able to share it with others.
Yeah.
Sure, you couldn't beat it, not with a big stick.
I know, Deirdre. It brings it back to that lovely simplicity of the fact that really it's in recognising that we are so lucky, the practice of gratitude, and we won't always have the desired outcome at a given time, but you don't have to wait for the clean bill of health to feel well, and you don't have to wait for the check on the notice board to feel abundant. You can feel it before you already have it. That is a practice, not a mandate, like the other things you're talking about. And when you begin with gratitude, like if I give you a gift, no matter what, you're going to, you'll smile, and then you'll smile with every cell in your body. And as you're opening it, there's an element of anticipation. And as you feel all of these things, you're beginning and getting ready to say, oh, thank you so much, Síle. And so gratitude in its essence is a great place to start, even if you're not really sure what you're grateful for because somebody has just stolen the oil out of your tank. You could flip that if you practice often enough, and if you've kind of fixed the roof when the sun is shining, so you have the work done and the belief system in place, you can say, well, I'm very grateful for the fact that it's not ideal, but I can actually afford to put that back in. I'm not going to be sitting here in a sleeping bag around my knees for the next 6 weeks till I can build up the money again to put the oil back in the tank. You could even get a little bit further in your gratitude practice and say, it's not ideal, but I hope whoever took it, needed it and is better off for the having of it. And that's a bit of a stretch, but we can go where we can push into the edges of our gratitude practice.
The secret is in the reframe.
Yeah.
The secret, the solution is the reframe.
Yeah.
How can I look at this differently? Mm-hmm. So when I was standing the other night and we discovered this and the oil was gone, and I felt so vulnerable because I live alone, and the thought that there was someone there who had, consciously, purposely, visited ill will on me, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It felt
disconcerting.
I really felt very vulnerable. But because I've practiced, this is where the practicality of it comes in. How do you do this, Deirdre? It's not, an intellectual, it's a daily practice where I practice gratitude on the verticom's good days, so that when the bad days, when the challenges come, you can say, a worthy opponent.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I've got it. I can do this. So when I was standing the other night and I was freezing cold and the oil was gone, and what did I notice? I so thanked God, life, source, whatever you want to call it, that within 5 minutes, virtually, it was probably about 15 minutes, that there were 2 men at my house who were giving up their time, on a Monday, wet, windy Monday evening to figure this out for me. Mm-hmm. The plumber and the oil man. And they were there and they were discussing and they went over. We didn't arrive at this conclusion immediately. We were talking about leaks and blah, 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 and went on and on. And I just felt this overwhelming sense of gratitude. Mm-hmm. That I was so blessed and so lucky to have good people in my life. And what I know is that I have attracted that. Okay? That I have this is what I teach my people, that, we operate on frequencies. Your life, the life force within you is energy. And energy moves. And the frequency that it moves on, this is not woo-woo, this is science. Oh, yeah. That the frequency that it moves on is the frequency that you decide you're at. Mm-hmm. So you are life, you are energy, you move and you operate on a frequency. And you cannot be on 2 frequencies. If you tune into the radio station, if I tune into U105, which I happen to, to have a slot on, Mindset Mastery Monday on a Monday, if I tune into U105, I cannot tune in to another radio station at the same time. So you have to choose the station you tune into. So you choose the frequency that you tune into. Mm-hmm. So the practice is to get grateful, because when you're grateful, you're on that frequency. Mm-hmm. So when you're on the frequency of gratitude, you attract more of that frequency. So the more you do it, the better you get at it. But let me tell you this, the more you do it in the beginning, the more you will be tested. The more you will be, how much do you want it? How much do you want your life? How much do you want to learn? How much do you want to grow? How much do you want it, Deirdre? I think I was telling you when we were talking that only a few weeks ago, I had what would be termed a knockback. Because, today I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm a CrossFit athlete, I eat healthy, I dropped alcohol a long time ago, I dropped a lot of things, and I've rounded up my life. And long story short, my blood pressure was checked and it was way high. So now I've been told that I have a blood pressure thing, and, literally told, you can't drive your car, you need to go to A&E and get checked out. You could either have a stroke or a heart attack. In a moment, that was a gut punch. But what was it? It was another test. It was, are you ready for this level? Are you ready for this, Deirdre? So I had to take that information, take that challenge, take that test. What was I going to do with that? It wasn't pretty. I was frightened, I was crying, I was, what I want, the message that I want to get across is that this work is work. The work of evolution, your personal evolution, is work. Mm-hmm. It's not all plain sailing, it's not all roses, but it is worth it.
Yeah.
It is worth it. If you're listening to this and you feel challenged and you say, I'm it's all right for you, Deirdre, you've got A, B and C, or, it's all right for you, Síle, that is not the message we're carrying. That is not the message we are portraying. The message that I want to get across is that there are parts of it that are very not pretty. Mm-hmm. But if you set your intention, if you say, I'm going to do this, mm-hmm. I'm going to get up again, I'm going to get up again and again and again, the reward is there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't swap any of this mm-hmm. for the feeling that I have driving down today, living my life and having made peace with death.
Yes.
That's to me, that's where you have to get to.
That's the emancipation. I agree with you. I agree. And I think that we're all moving through our different stories in life to get us to that point. And more or less, as soon as we catch it, it's elusive, it's gone. We've got to, go after it again. Not a chasing in an exhausting way, but definitely not waiting for it to come back. If you're waiting, you're missing a trick. Because as you sit waiting, life is passing you by, and your opportunities to learn, expedite the learning of those lessons, mm-hmm. is just passing you by. I'm with you on the whole idea of the excitement. I think connection is key. So you said about living intentionally. So mm-hmm. Putting your intention out there and then putting your attention on the intention. So on purpose living is the work. It's not hard work. It's not like work is a 4-letter word, but it is the showing up every day to do maybe a similar lesson to the lesson you had to learn the previous day, but doing it differently. Because if you haven't passed through that part of the curriculum, well, you clearly didn't pass the test just yet. So that's okay. But then look at the brightness and the excitement and the bling of meeting somebody that's in your tribe. Mm-hmm. So you get that sense of connection, and you realise that the angels or source energy or divine intelligence, whatever is, one's own faith practice, they're playing with you. They're taking you out to play too. Look what I've done for you now. You were in a little bit of doubt there, because we chatted about that health status situation on that night. And by the time we got to the end of our conversation, we changed the language completely, which was really helpful. It lightened our collective load, because in that moment, I wanted to get on board that with you. Same with way I'd like you to get on board something like that with me, if you have capacity for that, if the situation was reversed. Because when you share it with somebody and carry it with them for a moment, you're kind of holding the corner a little bit. Mm-hmm. You're holding the corner, and then the other person gets to borrow the brain just for that moment. Because when you're in your limbic system, you can't even access your thinking brain. There isn't even a rope ladder that you could climb to your neocortex. When you're in your emotional brain, you really need to borrow a brain. And if you can do that just for a moment, then you get perspective again. And you realised, as you said, this is actually going to give me more than it takes from me, because I'm going to do this, this and this differently now.
So on a practical level, how do you, if you're listening to this and you think, yeah, I get all that, but what do you actually do? What does each day look like? And how do you bring that into practical? And, I can say that this morning, before I leave the house, the first thing I do as I waken is I reach for the book. I reach for my journal. I reach for my daily practices. I start my day with gratitude. Today is a good day. Today is a new day. Today, I love this, in all the history of the world, today has never been here before. In all the history of all being, today has never been here before. So what makes you think that you know what's going to happen? It's never been here before. You cannot anticipate what's going to happen. So when you operate from there, when I operate from that, and I literally, physically write it every day. I write that every single day. I don't do it digitally. I write it with a pen in my book every day to imprint it on my brain, and in some kind of way, what we're doing is undoing what occurred in the beginning, and so that's what I do. That's what I did this morning. And then I write, I have 10 lines and I write my I ams, okay? And this is what I say to my clients, to my students, to the people who follow me, to etc., people who do my courses, whatever. Whatever follows I am, you are. So if you're saying, well, I am, that's just me, that's the way I am, whatever, I'm scared, I'm frightened, I'm no good at it, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too whatever follows I am, you are. So if you want a better I am, write it down. I am beautiful, I am loved, I am loving, I am lovable. I write that every day. Mm-hmm. I am loved, I am loving, and I am lovable. And that covers a lot. I am prosperous. I am happy. I am so what I do is I write what I aspire to be, and some days I'm closer to it than others. And but that is the constant. Mm-hmm. The constant is the I am. I am beautiful. I am prosperous. I am clever. I am loved. I am whatever it is you want. So I will write that 10 times. And then I thank you. The gratitude has to come next. It's part and parcel of it. Thank you, God, life, source, whatever you want to call it. Thank you, life, for the wonder of my being and the miracle of your presence in me. So I write that down. And over and over again, until it is imprinted. And when it's imprinted, then it starts to become second nature. Yeah. So that means that when the challenges come, when the gut punch comes, and you think, no, I didn't think that was going to happen. It's not that you don't feel the pain, but the thing about it is you recover. Mm-hmm. You recover more quickly because you have put in the hard yards. You have put in the time. Mm-hmm. You have invested the time of your day into that practice. And it's practice. That's what practice is. Yeah. I play golf. You've got to practice, and the more you practice, the better you get at it. And it's the same with life. The more you practice and invest in those daily exercises, the compound interest, it pays off. Then you get to meet people like Síle.
And right back at you. Because behaviour is downstream of belief. So if we don't work on the belief, and that's where the hard work needs to be done. But even hard conversations don't need to be difficult. That hard conversation can be with yourself. Why did I do that? what must my belief system be? Do I need to check in with my value system? Do I need to rewrite my values, my core values? Because we're going to do things in our subconscious mind, driven by our subconscious mind, when we're, when our brain slips sideways, like when things shock us or come in and we didn't expect them to come. The behaviour is downstream of belief. So if we do the work on the belief, what do I believe in? Who am I? Then, state is always going to become trait if we practice it often. Because I come out always aware of practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. So what you always do is going to get set in as your belief system. So your behaviour is going to be downstream of that. So it's really wise to take time, as you say, to jot it down, see what it is flowing from us, so that we can observe it then and see in our metacognitive way, is that right? Is that right by me? And am I right by that? Do I need to tweak that? So that then when the next life lesson comes, we can deal with it differently, reframe it quicker, fail forward, fall forward, fail better, fall better, get up quicker, dust ourselves off and carry on. And that's the practice. And it very much is a practice, not a mandate. And we're forever then evolving.
Yeah. I love it. I used to be a perfectionist, and that is such a pain in the ass because it cripples you. Because if you believe that you're not good enough, this is how it shows up. Perfectionism isn't about being perfect. Perfectionism is about punishing yourself for not getting it right. That's what perfectionism is. And when you can let go of that and make peace with yourself, be nice to yourself, be kind to yourself, ask yourself better questions, not, for God's sake, what's wrong with me? Why does it always happen to me? Asking yourself, well, can I actually love myself through this? Can I love myself in this moment when my, self-loathing is at an all-time high? When I really think I have screwed up, it's my fault. Here we go again. All those things that show up, that have certainly showed up in my life over and over again. If I can ask myself a better question, if I can love myself through the pain of, failure, in inverted commas, then I am evolving. So one of the things that I have an online community. I call it the Freedom Community. And this is one of the things that we come up against again and again. And this is one of the solutions that I offer to them. What do you want? Who are you really? And my answer to that is to evolve as my best self so that others may do the same. And it took me a long time to get that together. And the word evolution is specifically put in there because evolution presupposes that you're learning, that you're always changing, that life always changes. It's not like you get to that point and now that's perfect. No. That doesn't exist, because if perfection existed, then we would have nothing else to do, nothing else to learn, nowhere else to go. So if you can take out perfection and put in evolution, then there's always a learning.
Yeah.
Then there's an opening there for more, for better, for expanse, for joy, for non-judgment.
Yeah.
Evolution is judgment-free because everything just is.
Yeah, of course.
So when it's judgment-free, it just is.
Yeah.
So when the oil's stolen, it just is. It is. And so when I can accept that, then I can move on from it.
Yeah.
But when I'm stuck there in the, well, why?
Yeah.
Why did it happen? Why did it happen to me? Or what did I do wrong that it happened? All right? If you can evolve onto the next stage easily, then you're free because you can let go
Sure.
of what's there, and then suddenly you see two people who care about you. You know, I have to give you a laugh. About 3 days later, I have a lot going on at the minute, and one of the things that I'm doing is I'm actually I'm putting in a new kitchen. I'm not putting in a new kitchen. I've got a kitchen and I want to change it, so I'm painting it differently, and there's a few, you know, modifications going on. So that requires you know, a list, and it requires different workmen. It requires, you know, organising all of that. So the practicalities of all of that. And the other day, it was just incredible to me that I was working on my business. So I have Campbell who works with me. So we're working on the business in the kitchen. You know, at the computers, you know, moving to the next procurement of what's coming next, and so there's a new cooker going in, so that requires that the old cooker comes out, that the new one comes in, so that needs an electrician. Then how am I going to how is that going to happen? How does that actually practically happen? I need a man to help a man to get it all done. So there's all these different things going on. And the doorbell went, and there's the electrician at the door. And I'm thinking, I need someone to help him to move the cooker. I go round, and there's, you know, the window cleaner has turned up. The gardener has turned up. The plumber has turned up because of the oil that was stolen with a new tank. And at one stage, there were 5 men all there in the space of 10 minutes. All these men turned up, and I just felt such an overwhelming sense of gratitude and joy in the middle of all that was not going right, kind of thing. In the middle of it all, I felt this. To get that, Síle, am I explaining that
You
well?
are indeed. It's a perfect example of synchronicity. And,
Totally.
Yeah. And that you had put it out to the universe so many times as you desire it to be, in terms of different things that you were going through, but the energy imprint is the same. So the signature of putting it out there as you desire it to be shows up in all of the different iterations. It can show up in the health status being better when you meditate, if you choose not to medicate, because that's what you have put it out there to the universe to be. The signature energetically is the same. So when those guys were all there, almost by magic, it wasn't magic.
That's what it felt like.
Yes, yeah.
It absolutely, I felt quite overwhelmed, and I could see they were all looking at me. I was just eyes wide, looking at, you know, and just thank you in that moment. And when you know on a practical level, that when you feel gratitude, you are releasing oxytocin and melatonin into your bloodstream, which opens up all the cells, which that's what keeps the body flowing. You know, that's the elixir of life.
Of course. It's very healing. If there is a malaise in any part of your body, even that you don't know about, practicing that is fixing it before you ever even had to know about it. So the whole sense of that happening for you in your kitchen that day is the miracle that we're expected to expect. And if we get too overwhelmed even in that moment, that's an element of putting it out into the universe that I didn't really believe. So the universe is kind of saying, seriously? And it might give you another little lesson where it doesn't work so synchronously. So sometimes the fine line in the law of attraction is just to really genuinely expect the miracles everywhere, because they're happening everywhere, and then to just breathe and be into the moment and know that you're worth it, that you are loving, lovable and loved, and we're turning up for you. So you're having that conversation with source energy like there's nobody else in the world, only you, which is what we discussed actually that night, and it was so special. And for me in my own life, that's where my turning point was, a series of very unfortunate events at a particular time in my life that were shocking. And for all the work I had done, because like that I would have been an empath and therefore very codependent, and attachment styles being repurposed in my teenage years from formative years, and maybe they weren't very secure, and all of the different ordinary, typical growth spurts in adolescence. And then through matrescence and rearing children, and then unfortunately losing a little baby, and all of the life lessons that we know about. We've heard. They're not unique to me. They're there. Lots of people are going through them, but it's how you respond to them that brings you to the next
So
chapter.
I'm fascinated. So what are some of your stories? Because bear in mind at this point, I don't know.
We don't know.
You know a wee bit more about me than I know about
they're
you.
multifold, and it was absolutely at least another episode to go through them. And I suppose the big thing I love to share is that really the detail is irrelevant. I use this in my practice as well, because I'm a consultant psychotherapist, and when I do hypnosis, somebody may not need to share the detail of their trauma.
Yeah, I get that. Yep.
Some people like to, and they need to, because nobody ever asks them, and they just need to hear themselves saying it just once. And even in the saying it, sometimes you see them, their shoulders drop, they breathe into the moment, and they might have an ab reaction, they might cry, but it's actually releasing and just getting that moment to start at the beginning, not get interrupted, and get to the end of the story from their subjective perspective. And sometimes they fix themselves. You can just sit back and let them unwind, unfurl, unpick, unpack.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's really, sometimes in some cases, all they need. It's just that one person to hear them and get it and make space for it and not judge it, just witness. And then sometimes they need you to help them to fix and to get better and to get stronger. So the story sometimes, and I think more so as I get older, is quite irrelevant to me. I think the story and the detail are quite irrelevant. I think it's what are the lessons you've learned coming through that particular period of adversity? How much stronger are you, and why? How does that serve you now, and how does what you were doing before not serve you? So they're kind of the stories that I have to share more, I suppose, fluidly and fluently, because I think it's always about the speaker. So if I tell the story, you will relate to that, but you'll relate to the part of it that you can hook into your life. And then to some extent, we both might revolve rather than evolve. Whereas if I can tell you the lesson that I learned, that's on a higher frequency. And that keeps us in the space of freedom. And freedom, in my opinion, is the definition of success. Freedom, you can be 70, you can be 80, you can be 90, and not have the freedom that a 20-year-old might have if they have passed through their lessons and learned from them. Usually we are, falling forward into the next lesson, falling upwards into the next lesson, and we're going to have to keep doing that until we evolve out of it as better versions of ourselves. So I suppose in my own case, there are some very obvious learning points throughout my life. And actually, my biggest moments of learning were very subtle. They were in the subtle energies we spoke about earlier. They were just realising, at one point I remember realising, I'm so melancholy. And that came out on this podcast a little while ago. I was chatting with somebody and I shared, and I've known that I call myself a recovering melancholic. It's just a language I use to make it relatable to others. I remember when I realised, gosh, I'm not sad, and I'm not a sad person, but there's a shadow. I'm not, and it's like me and my shadow. I'm okay with it because it's always been with me, but I don't know if I want to carry that shadow. I think I want to look into it and see what's in there and why. And I remember finding a lot of exiled parts of myself from my younger years that it was important to bring out in front of me and look at and make my peace with. And I'm not done with all of them. There's lots more in that backpack that needs working on. But as I do and as I make my peace with that, I absolutely can access joy more or less all of the time. I may not always be happy because that's outside in and it's buoyant and it's, we had great fun. I have all of that going on when I require it. But what I don't necessarily need it all the time. And at this stage in my life, joy is my set point, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I
love that, Síle. I can just relate so much to that. Ditto. I recently realised, how invested I was in this, not the sadness, but the just the pain parts of my life, and that because I had chosen to use them to help others, that there was a part of me that was sort of invested in it, that felt that I had to keep it, that I had to, that if I let go of, as you described, the melancholy, that somehow if I let go of the melancholy, that I will not serve in the way that I want to, in the way that gives me so much joy. And I really think that has been part of my learning even in the last year, even in what, when we talked, and I've talked here about the blood pressure thing, that, what was the lesson in it? What is the message in it? What is the learning from it? And, this is almost live as we're doing it, because what is coming to me more and more is it's okay to let go of the melancholy. It's okay to let go of the stories, that you will not lose your authenticity or your empathy. My heart is big, and my heart is abundant, and I've come to realize that is my gift to the people that I connect with, the people I work with, the people who hear me on the radio, the people wherever. And somehow, somewhere, there has been that feeling that that in order to share that to the fullest, I must hold on to this other piece.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is that it's okay to let that go.
Yeah.
And that it's okay, that the meaning will still get across.
We can still be in service, because when we are looking at our own story all the time, we are revolving, perhaps, we're attaching the emotional arousal of that to the story sometimes. And as long as we do that, if we feel that it's to help somebody else, I think it's less of a trip hazard. Because again, when you're outward focused, when you're in service for the right reason, you can only be in joy. You can't necessarily access joy for yourself all of the time when you guarantee yourself the freedom all of the time, because there's a little bit of it. That's a little bit more haphazard as a journey. But if you guarantee it to me, you will access the joy from. I may not, but you will. So I think it's a great set point to just, where possible, stay outward focused, and all of the stories that we can share with others without the emotional arousal attached, because your memory of anything that happened to you or for you without the emotional arousal is your wisdom. And if we're finding ourselves telling the same story to help somebody else, but in danger on occasions of attaching to that again, and perhaps when our work is done, being at that frequency, that being our vibrational offering, we are going to bring in a similar such story to our world again, because you can only attract what you're in the vicinity of. Yeah. Whatever you're vibrationally in the vicinity of, you're getting a match for it. So that night when we met, we were clearly on our high-flying disc. We were going to meet gorgeous Jacqueline Rooney in her gorgeous gallery. Yep. She is the most colourful, beautiful, special person. Yep. So gorgeous, and clearly a soul sister of ours, because there we were, parking in convoy, pottered in like we knew each other all our lives. She was enthralled and intrigued and delighted to see the two of us. Did you? No, we didn't, but we do now. And, well, you know, or we did in another life, or we, you know, or we are iterations of each other, whatever. It's not linear. This world that we're in is not linear, and it's all an illusion, really. All of the stuff, all of the stories are our opportunity to gently expand the window of what brings us joy. That's our enlightenment. When there's a progressive narrowing of the things that bring us joy, we're in danger of falling into addiction to the wrong people and thinking that it's love, you know, the love bombing, the pushing in, pushing out of the same stuff over and over again, same boyfriend, same husband, a different name, different different decade, or addiction to substance, addiction to behaviour, whether it's gambling or porn. You know, a lot of people that I would work with are struggling with addiction of kinds that wouldn't have been on the radar 5-6 years ago, 10 years ago when I started practicing. You know, people who are finding it very difficult perhaps to set down relationships, and they think that it's an attachment style thing, which of course it is, and we can work very tangibly on that. But before that, what precipitates that is perhaps the secret behaviours and ills of today. We have this phone available to us now, which, you know, it's so dangerous. Young people are accessing porn like they never did before. And so it's very difficult then to understand who they are in intimacy. And when we pare back the fact that it's not the obvious thing that we have to work on, we have to get back to those behaviours. And behaviours are downstream of belief. And then if we can change the behaviour, we can get in to work on those belief systems. And very often people don't believe in themselves. They don't believe they're worthy of a quality relationship. Perhaps nowadays they don't even know what a quality relationship is, because digital meeting each other is difficult. And it can be a little bit, it can have a short lifespan. You know, people can maybe be in a frame of mind where it doesn't have to be forever, which, by the way, it doesn't. Everything runs its course. But you don't want everything to be just as disposable as that either, to be ghosting, or it's all so injurious to people's health and wellness. You know, so paring back and peeling back to the very simple things, I think, is always a really good place to start. Yeah. And that's then your vibrational offering. So if we're even thinking, like if you're in the shower and a conversation comes to your mind that you had with somebody when you were 12, which happens, your self-talk takes you on journeys. If you've not done the work that we're talking about doing, you could very easily have gone into the shower happy, healthy, wholesome, and come out of it feeling heavy. So your vibrational offering is down there around shame and guilt and not feeling worthy. And you'll be very sure that you're going to attract more of that into your world, maybe in a message that you get on your phone or a conversation that you have with somebody that goes a certain way because you bring your mindset of shame and sadness and guilt to it. So you'll say different things until you stop yourself and realise, hang on a second, why am I attracting this? What do I need to do? Let's go back and have a chat with that inner critic and say to the amygdala, step down, amygdala, I've got this. That conversation was a long time ago. I do not need to rehash that. And notice why it came into your world. Notice what was it about that day? Did you use a particular shower cream that was reminiscent of something through the olfactory bulb that you used when you were younger? What was it that was the pattern match for that? And that's your power. And in that power, you can keep your vibrational offering in a place that's going to attract into your world that which grows you and which helps you to keep expanding your own window of tolerance for uncertainty. Because, as you said, there's a lovely contradiction and paradox in you don't know what's coming. So keep your heart open to everything. Don't be attached to any one thing so that you can allow in what's coming in. But also the flip side of that is sometimes in the uncertainty of that, depending on where we're at in our growth and expansion, we might feel insecure. So it's a bit of a tightrope, and we have to know how to keep our steady footing on that tightrope. The balance between, and our brain is always looking for homeostasis. We're at our most well and healthy when we have that when we can access homeostasis. So, you know, the balance between being excited and being able to hold space with uncertainty versus being insecure in not knowing what's coming. and I think, in my opinion, I think it's very simplistic, but if we can stay playing the game of life in that way and just keeping the balance, because if you go too high, it has to come down and it'll probably go below the previous set point. If you go too low, sometimes it's very, very hard to come back up, you know. But always know in a case like that there is help, you know, that you can help. And your courses, for example, and your retreats are the perfect place. So tell us, where can we get that help? How can we access the courses and the online communities and the retreats?
Well, the easiest way is, you know, my name is Deirdre Maguire and my website is deirdremaguire.com, and so everything is there. I have consolidated everything that I've learned over the last 25 years by creating my own system, the stress solution system, and it takes various formats. There are various entry points. The first one is the Elite Diamond program, which you know, involves it's a 90-day program, and you get me one-to-one there in the middle of all that, and there are lots of details of that on the website. And then the other part of my life that reflects my work is my online community. I call it the Freedom Community, and currently I think there are about 65 of us in there at the minute, and we meet weekly on a Zoom call, and we have met physically, not all of us, because these people are scattered across the world. And I love that, you know.
Likewise.
It's unreal when, you know, every Wednesday evening we come in live, and, you know, there's Siobhan in South Africa, there's Emma and Margarita in America, you know, and then there's, you know, Patricia and Ailish down the road, and it's just beautiful, and it's growing all the time. And then I also have my Peaceful, Powerful You, which is my 21-day online meditation program, which I love. I do that myself. You know, I did that this morning, and yeah, that's such a gift and such a privilege. I share it with others, and I have it myself, and then, of course, I do my Mindset Mastery Monday with on U105 on the radio with Frank Mitchell, and that is so beautiful. That's one of the favourite things that I do, because it reaches, it seems to reach people who otherwise wouldn't. You know, when you're a convert to this work, that's one thing. But when you are unaware, you have no idea, and you're just in pain, and you have no way out of it.
Yeah.
That can be such a lonely journey. But so that's where the radio comes in, Mindset Mastery Monday. Which then,
because Deirdre, when somebody, I just want to, if you, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I because we chatted before we went on air about a couple that I was working with recently, and exactly as you say, I think if people become comfortable with the discomfort, again, there's a bit of a paradox and a contradiction in there. That's where they'll be left. They think that's home, but really their house has no roof, in the analogy we used earlier. So if somebody is listening to this and it isn't their vernacular,
yes,
they are still welcome in your community. That's, I just want to, and tune into that radio station, get used to this language in their own kitchen, out doing their farming, you know, with their AirPods in, out for their walk. Listen until they feel confident enough to access it, and they can lurk and listen and read your book and access all of this very much in the fringes until they're ready. And then you'll be there then in a more one-to-one way if needs be. I
had a practical experience recently where I was dealing with someone who got in touch with me, and they were in a lot of pain, and but they were uncontactable simply because of the and I don't want to give their anonymity is very important. So because of the nature of their work, they they could not get access to me. So I said, what are we going to do here? And I said, well, you know what you can do? You can go onto my website, and the U105 recordings are delivered as a podcast on my website. And this person said, okay, I'll do that, because they couldn't get in contact with me in any other way. Their job, they were out at sea. And and they were there for, a few months. It was such a revelation to me that when the person actually did get to the point where I do a lot of my work in my kitchen. People come to my home and we just sit in the kitchen, and we do a lot of releasing there. And so this person, because they couldn't get to me, the only thing they had was the podcast. And by the time they got to my kitchen, they had shifted so much. This is what this person said to me. They said, I've listened to every episode.
Yeah.
And I actually feel so different. Mm-hmm. And it flabbergasted even me, because as you describe, when someone is not familiar with the vernacular of personal development, it can be so alien to them. But the work was almost done. Mm-hmm. Almost done. Not quite, but almost done by the time this person got to me. So that's a revelation. Mm-hmm. That was a revelation in itself.
Even putting your attention on the capacity for healing. Just that. So listening to the podcast, that person was out at sea, and they wouldn't have been necessarily having conversations with anybody else in the space. Their environment remained the same. Mm-hmm. But it's even like if I said to you, Deirdre, become aware of your right foot there. Mm-hmm. And, all of a sudden now, all you can feel is your right foot. Mm-hmm. Become aware, and you're aware of your foot in your shoe, and you're aware of your shoe on the ground. And 2 seconds ago, you didn't even remember you had a foot.
Yes.
But now you put your attention on that, and energy is flowing to that. And so you become aware, because those pressure receptors were working anyway. They always are. So where attention goes, energy flows. Mm-hmm. And when somebody is off out doing their own thing, if they even set an intention to feel better, just that. I mean, that's not a hard thing to do. It's not a stretch. Just set an intention to feel slightly better. Even somebody that's on the journey of discovery, we are all able to access in the subtler energies, in the dimensions. Like, we're aware of space, time, 3 dimensions, length, breadth and width. But if we, depth to run them, but if we, and time, of course, but there are so many other dimensions that we don't even get to because we're so stuck, we're so in the world. So if we can just put our intention out there, that's a start point. And then put attention on the intention to feel even slightly better. So ready to be ready to be ready. Then when the opportunity comes to learn, you're subtly learning. Like that person was subtly learning. And by the time they got to you, they were able to look back and say, look how far I've come. And they could accredit that to you. I think accrediting credit where credit is due is not necessarily walking up to somebody and saying, thanks to you, I'm here. But it's very much within themselves, at least. And it's lovely if you can say to the person that gave you the steer, or say to somebody else, this is where I learned that. Because I think there's an appreciation in that, and what you appreciate appreciates. But if somebody can say to you, Deirdre, listening to your podcast wakened up a software within me that I had programmed, but I just had never accessed it. I had that coding. I just wasn't getting into that program. My laptop was open. I had many other tabs open, but I hadn't used that program. And then you can help them, a bit like if we're learning how to use PowerPoint, or I'm probably very antiquated in my examples. I'm sure it's gone far past that digitally. But, Office Suite, the way there's so many programs on it. If you've never used Publisher and you're still trying to use PowerPoint, and then somebody says, oh no, when you're doing a brochure, use Publisher. We are wired for these things. And when we hear somebody else saying it eloquently and articulately, and perhaps with metaphor, your brain is a metaphor-seeking machine, it all sinks. And we're like, oh my God, I knew that. And you're so excited because what you're doing is you're accessing capacity that you've always had. You just didn't know the code. There was a gatekeeper. It was the trauma. Trauma blocks it. The small t traumas and the big T traumas of your life. They block the accessing of what's actually naturally there. It was always there. It's like Dorothy, you just had to tap your heels. You know, it's actually, but somebody like you and your program and the content that you make available lights up the pathway. Belief lit the path. I always believe belief lit the path. If I can just believe that what this person is saying is what I need to hear, or when we met, if we could lean into it and say, I see what you're doing now, universe. Well, I don't know what you're doing, universe, but I wonder. Let's see where this goes. If you're open, there is literally, I think it's nearly like a rain shower of good luck after that, because you're wide open to receive the gifts.
I love the idea of that. And, how did we learn what we learned? We learned what we learned because someone else showed us. It's very important to understand that. And now I can be the conduit.
Yes.
I carry the message. And, to go right back to the beginning when I got into 12-step recovery, that's where I learned that, carrying a message. And so if you understand that, and if you're listening to this today and something resonates with you, it's what Síle is saying is exactly that you have everything within you. You may never have consciously heard that before. Someone may never have said that to you. No one may ever have said it to you. Not your parents, not your teachers, not your siblings. No one has ever said to you that you are complete. You are amazing. You are beautiful. You are incredible. Sheila doesn't actually know this, but I have a little gift for you, and this is one of the ways that I show this practically to my clients, and I just would like to offer this to you because this is who you are.
Deirdre.
You are amazing. You are incredible. You are beautiful. You are a diamond. You are perfect. You came into an imperfect world and they had their problems. So all you did was this. You just covered it up. So now is the time for you to access who you really are. And this is what I say, I can see, I can see the diamond that you really are. I can see the diamond that you really are. But my promise is that you will see it more clearly by the time we're finished. So I would love to...
Well, I want to say thank you so much,
give
Deirdre.
that to you.
Thank you so much.
That's yours.
I'm sorry I'm not coming over to give you a hug, but I know the boys will kill us if I do that until we wrap. We have a friend, or I don't know this person, but we have a person that we both know who's a beautiful singer.
Denise.
Denise. And I just feel it's a moment to give her a mention. I mention her regularly, believe it or not, on the show. We because I know her work so well from years ago. And as you're handing that over, I felt very emotional because I remember hearing one of her songs, and again, when the lesson is needed, the teacher appears.
Oh God, I'm getting emotional, Sheila.
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling the tears coming.
Because I remember when
Denise
I heard
Hagen.
her, yes, and she sang one of her songs. I felt to me they were. You talk about a conduit. I felt that lady was. I never met her at that stage, and I have since met her once, and it was such a pleasure. But when she sang, "If you could see what I see, you would never lose your smile," and I actually mentioned that. I think it was in about episode 8 of this podcast with a gorgeous guy, a photographer, and I finished my episode in my outro with a message, because we were talking about photography and the nuance of personal trauma coming through in your face. We can always really see if we look at a photograph, no matter how hard we try to do the Elvis Presley lift the lip, we can see where we're at ourselves, or we can see in a photo where somebody else is at. So I felt myself saying Denise's words, and I quoted her, of course, and gave her the credit. If you could see what I see, you'd never lose your smile. And as you hand me that, my inner child felt so seen. So I'm so grateful, and I suppose suitably emotional. And it prompts me I know we're coming to an end. I wish we weren't. But we'll definitely do some work together. Definitely. There's no doubt, this is a threshold. But it's a nice time to say that I have an intention to read one of my poems at the end of the episode. I very often do. And I had the great pleasure recently of somebody contacting me to say that he's listening to the podcasts and he's enjoying the long form conversations. He feels like he's listening to two people having a conversation in the foyer of a hotel. And I thought this was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
A lovely, lovely gentleman. And we chatted about my poetry. He likes my poetry. And anyway, he's taken one of my poems and he's turning it into a song. Right? And he has his own intentions for this. And that story will reveal itself at a later point, which is a blessing. But the poem has worked on already. I've seen the lyrics. He has moved around the words of the poem to suit songs and middle eight and bridge and chorus. And it's lovely. But to be very brief, and I have a problem with brief. I go all the way to court to get to RD.
You and me both.
Verbose is my middle name. I met the most beautiful lady in the summer. Her name is Judith. And I've been writing in the name of Síle Judith Father for years. So that's my pen name. And I have an anthology of poetry. And the name Judah is very important to me because it is my paternal grandmother that I didn't know. And I have the story written, which I hope I'll be able to have made into a film soon. I have some bites on that. And it's a beautiful story, but I write in the name of Síle Judith Father because I feel that I am an incarnation of Judah. And that's, as I say, the story is lengthy and not for today. But meeting this lady, she struck me as somebody that was like Louise L. Hay. If you've ever, I think you have obviously read Louise L. as I listened to you. She looked like Louise Hay.
I've met Louise Hay.
Wow.
I had a conversation with,
oh my goodness.
I have a photograph
with Louise.
Taken with Louise.
I mean,
if you heard that story,
I can. She's stunning. She is downstream of all of us.
This just gets.
I know.
It's unreal.
I know. Well, this lady. Wait till you see a picture of her. She looks like Louise L. Hay. She had the gentility of Louise. That's all I can say. I've never met her, but I read all of her books and I honour her. She's an amazing person. And this lady eventually, in the course of an evening, gently made her way over to me and asked if I wouldn't mind if she interrupted our company. And I said, not at all. I was glancing across the room at you there. We were like, it was almost like we were flirting in our energies. I was along with my husband and he's no stranger to this type of happening in my life. I meet lovely people and I talk to everybody. And I mightn't even necessarily realise it, but I mightn't be having the best day on a given day. It wouldn't be that I'm having a bad. It mightn't be having the best day. And I'll just go to the shop. And because I have a chat with somebody, I'm higher. So connection is my thing. And quality connection then is the elixir. But this lady and I chatted on the hook of her saying, I'm struck by your necklace. And I looked at hers and it was very like mine. And then I realised hers would take the sight out of your eye and mine was way more lucky bag than that. But maybe not lucky bag, but very costume. And hers wasn't. And that was the beginning of an absolutely stunning story, which has amounted to the fact that we were in touch every single day. She was born and reared in upstate New York. She lives in San Francisco. Every single solitary thing that was a learning point in my life. So not the DVD, if you like, of my entire life, but all of the hooks, all of the learning points. Therefore, if you like, all of the sadnesses or challenges or troubles or traumas, small t and big T, exactly the same learning points in hers. I mean, to the letter. It was beautifully synchronous. I was a little bit overwhelmed, like you mentioned, when the lads all arrived and, when the two gentlemen arrived and the oil had been siphoned from your tank. And then I realised very quickly, no, you've done the work on this, Síle. Don't do overwhelm. Breathe into this. You've clearly put it out succinctly that you need this. There's room in your heart for this. If you get overwhelmed, you go high above it. In the moment, that's the happy. Stay with your joy. Keep the balance, because what goes up has to come down and it might go below. You might miss it then. You might go below the set point of bringing this to blossom. It's It's long since planted. The shoot is up. It wants to blossom.
Good woman. You held on.
Held tight. So did she. We then had a meeting, a beautiful meeting in Dublin for 7 whole hours. It was the most amazing experience. And as I say, the story is forever unfolding. But I've written a poem called Be Still My Puffy Heart, which I'm going to read at the end of the episode. And it tells the story. So I encourage you to listen back to that and see if you can fill in the pieces of the jigsaw, because it's not directly told in the story. I know, though, it will relate to a lot of people, will relate to it in terms of those, as John Connors said on the show here a number of episodes ago, there are no coincidences, they're all God incidences. And this was definitely a God incidence. It was so special. And I think we all have many holes in our heart that we're healing as we go through life. And definitely one of the holes in my heart, which probably was a vault, was a bit gapey, I didn't realise it, became a portal in that moment through which I evolved into the next level of myself. And am I plateauing there at the moment since then? Maybe I am, until the next lesson comes. Nothing as significant in my learnings has become evident to me just yet since then. I'm still loving passing that test. I clearly, we'll keep getting our new curriculum until we pass the test. And I am loving the learnings that are coming from that. So as I receive this, I'm reminded of we see each other in each other.
I have to tell you, that reminds me, the first thing is to clarify that Denise Hagen is a very good friend of mine.
Wow.
Okay. On my Peaceful, Powerful You meditation program,
yeah,
I, with her permission, use her music. Wow. I asked her if I could use the music. She said yes. I've done workshops in my home with Denise. Denise and I did a joint workshop in my home. The second thing that I want to tell you, so go back 20 years ago, and I am working in the family business. My father has passed. I'm navigating my way. Don't know whether I'm punched or bored. In a lot of pain, trying to figure this out. And I see that Louise Hay is coming to London. And I say, I'm going. So I make the decision that I'm going to London, and but I'm selling tables and chairs. I'm a furniture salesperson in the family furniture business. That's what I do. Okay, qualified as a teacher, left that behind, seeking, trying to find my way, navigating, and I'm reading Louise Hay's
You
books,
Can Heal Your Life,
and Wayne Dyer and all. So I decide I'm going to go to London. So I go to London, and I'm at the airport, Belfast Airport, and I think, as is I've always done this. I bring a gift. So I'm at the airport and I'm thinking, well, what would I give Louise Hay? Like, where I ever even thought that? So I'm at the airport and I buy this box of shortbread, a pretty tin of Irish shortbread. Put it in the bag, bring it with me. I go to the event, the Hay House event, and there is Louise. They bring her out, wheel her out at the beginning of it, and and her talk is all about health and nutrition and no sugar and etc. And there I am with a tin of shortbread. So at the break they say, Louise will be doing a book signing, and I get 2 books to give to my nieces and nephews. I get 2 books, and I'm standing in the queue with the books under my arm and the tin of shortbread, thinking, well, she's not going to take that. And it was so interesting because I was in the queue, and one of her aficionados came over and said, you are the last in the queue, because we need to move on. So you're the last person for the book signing. So if you could tell anybody who's coming behind you that you're the last one. So I said, okay. So I'm standing with shortbread under one arm, 2 books under the other. And I suddenly think, furniture salesperson with an aspiration for something else, still trying to figure out why my father died. And I'm standing going, you know something? I'm actually working for Louise Hay. I'm working for Louise Hay. I've got a job. I've been given a job. I am working for Louise Hay because I have to tell everybody that comes behind me, no, this is the end of the queue. No, this is the end. And people kept coming. And I kept going, no, this is the end of the queue. And I thought, oh my God, I am doing something for Louise Hay.
I love it.
In my imagination. So I get right up to the front and there's Louise. So I'm presenting with, I said, Louise, you know, you've just given a talk on nutrition and this is what I brought for you as a present, and it's shortbread, it's just sugar. She nearly took the arm off me. That's okay. Boom. The shortbread tin disappeared. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What's your name? I'm Deirdre Maguire, and I'm, you know. And I said, you have to bring this work to Ireland.
Yeah.
This work has to come to Ireland. And it really gets me emotional.
Yeah.
It does. Because it's such synchronistic dot joining.
Yeah.
So she said to me, what about you, Deirdre? Why don't you bring it?
Yeah.
Okay. Fast forward.
Yeah.
Okay. She signed my books. I brought them home. So, and in that moment, I said, could I get my photograph taken? So I have a photograph. I have that photograph.
Wow.
Of me taken with Louise.
Yeah.
And here we are. I was a very long way from what I thought was possible. Yeah. So like today, there's my book.
Believe it.
That I have brought as a gift to you, which is called Can You Believe It? Ordinary People, Extraordinary Stories. You know?
Oh my goodness.
So I have that for you as well.
Oh, Deirdre,
there you go.
So much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I love it.
So the message to anybody listening to this, you don't know what's going to happen. That's where we started. You have no idea what is planned for you. Surrender to trying to figure it out. Let go and let God.
Yes.
Get into the flow of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, wait till we have the photograph of you, me and Denise.
Yes. Yes.
Denise spoke at my recent event.
Yeah.
My freedom event. You know? We don't know, and you don't know, and maybe you're watching this and you are at the lowest point. Understand, the lowest point is the turning point.
Yes.
You're being tested. You're being asked to go to the next level. And no, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But it is worth it.
Yeah, we have bounce back ability and we can kick it in. I couldn't agree more. And as you said earlier, and a beautiful way to circle back to that is a lovely way to bring this to a very gentle close. The breakdown can be the breakthrough.
Is the breakthrough.
Is the breakthrough.
Is the breakthrough.
Can be. And for anybody, again, who's troubled, I know, say, for example, in addiction, which we referenced earlier, it's not just like showing up at any of the programs and necessarily putting down your addiction behaviour or substance of choice, but it begins with the belief. Can you believe? Believe, be love and belong. That's the beginning, the connection. Because the opposite of any of those fear points is love. On the other side of fear is love. And love is the answer to whatever the question.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and you don't ask, you know, why the addiction. You ask why the problem.
Yeah.
You know, what problem is the addiction solving?
Yeah. And it is the solution until you do the work. Absolutely. It's not the problem.
Absolutely.
It's the solution until you do the work.
But there is another way.
It's absolutely. And it's and little do people know, or rather they do know they're crying in their own hearts and souls, and we want to help them to help themselves, but they do have to help themselves. They're crying for that answer, and it will come in the right time, place and sequence. And it could be just listening to this. There will be so many that will gain so much from just listening. Your beautiful, candid sharing of your story, and then the lovely synchronous moments that took you to this place of expansion and evolution.
We're only getting started.
Only starting. Well, may time expand for you, my gorgeous friend. Thank you so very much. I look forward to episode 2 of this. This is only the beginning, literally.
Gura míle mahagat.
Only look what you saw the hashki. Gura míle mahagat.
Top vulture road.
And there you have it. What a conversation. Raw, real, and rich with reminders of what it means to be fully human. Deirdre's life has shown us that adversity doesn't have to define us. It can refine us. There comes a time when it's no longer about avoiding pain in all and any of its forms. It's actually about learning from it. Breaking open is the ultimate lesson in the super classroom of life. It's the power of perspective, kind of the alchemy of awareness. Our thoughts are not passengers, they are the drivers. And the same mind that can make you sick can make you well. So if you change the thought, you begin to change the chemistry. If you change the story, you begin to change the system. And maybe that's what Deirdre has taught us most beautifully, that healing isn't a future event. It's the quiet remembering that nothing was ever truly broken. It's already here, just waiting for us to notice. So this week's task, guys, it's your soul work, if you like. It's to notice your broadcast. Become aware of the data that you're inputting into the system of you. What are you consuming? That includes what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're reading, the company you're keeping, the conversations that you're a participant in or privy to. What are you eating, drinking, ingesting, injecting, smoking? It's all information, it's coding, because your field, that invisible current of energy around you, your vitality, your very own electromagnetic frequency is always sending out a signal. So what is your vibrational offering? Your life as you know it is an exact energy match for what you're broadcasting as your truth vibrationally. You're manifesting. You are always manifesting. You're a manifester. Do you like what you're manifesting? Well, after this conversation, you know what you have to do if you don't like what you're manifesting. Come back to centre. And the next time you find yourself doubting, wondering if it's all too much or too late, just remember this. Maybe the healing has already happened. Maybe it's all perfect, whole and complete. And some days are just a little dust on the mirror, but underneath, the reflection is still divine. When your heart is open to everything and attached to nothing, the most amazing things can happen, as the following poem depicts. This is a true story, by the way. Be still, my puffy heart. Musings by Síle Judah Feather. There are meetings too perfect to plan, where the soul, not the clock, keeps time. We met, not through names, nor apparent need, but through the silent shimmer of a puffy heart. Indeed. Twin pendants swollen with stories, hanging soft above rib cages wrapped in resolve that have weathered years of ache with elegance. Sometimes tiring, tiresome, elegance. She moves like American royalty, polished, poised, porcelain, strong, the kind of woman who tamed empires, but could never quite tame the loneliness that curled like ivy around her breath. The body keeping score, and I, an Irish echo of her grace, threaded with the same silks of sorrow, less gold, but just as gilded, in quiet survival. We didn't speak of all the losses, not then. They shimmered between the syllables like constellations we both knew by heart. You see, the puffy heart knows. It swells when held too long by longing. It inflames under the weight of bids for attention, unanswered, unmet gazes. Erased by mother, and as mother erased. Healing that collective mother wound at any soul cost. But in that moment, 2 women, 2 pendants, 2 lifetimes, and maybe more, surely more. The world bent slightly as if to listen to the hush of healing beginning. No fanfare, no miracle trumpet, just the whisper of breath shared, a stillness that hummed with something divine. Definitely divine. The puffy heart is no fragile thing. It carries grief like velvet. It bruises, yes, but it beats with the music of survival and the echo of 1,000 women who have walked through silence in heels, with lipstick and perfect hair, still soft enough to love when love finally dares to appear. We're not undone. We're rewritten by presence, not performance, by being witnessed, not fixed. And the breath returns, not by script, not by science, but by soul, not with medicine's cold precision, but through the soft machinery of being met, seen in the marrow. Love teaches the lungs to open. Knowing is the cure. Belief lit the path. Pill, placebo, paradise, who knew? You only had to tap your heels. It was never the treatment. It was the energy transfer, the silent hand on the back, the knowing glance across the room that said, I get it. I've carried that too. Let me hold the corner for a while. For years, we swallowed war of others, their moods, their myths, their mess, and mistook it for our own. It made our chests tight with stories that never belonged to us. But now, we rise in subtler power, a softer clarity. The sacred whisper that lives in our cells now says, that's not my business. And so the lungs begin to clear. The heart stops puffing against invisible wars. The system resets. Brain only attuned now to truth, beauty, resonance, and the name love gave us before the world ever named us broken. We've turned our backs on centuries of silence, the bitter inheritance of women who wore pain like perfume and disappeared inside their own eyes. We knelt. We broke. We bled into the soil of our becoming, and we got up. Not in defiance, but in devotion. We rose for them, for the ones we birthed and buried, for the ones still becoming, for the ones watching without knowing they're watching. And now, the map has changed. The cycle is broken. The breath is new. The puffy heart, once swollen with sorrow, is now buoyant with meaning. A compass, not a curse. This is where the sadness ends. Not with thunder, but with alignment, with trust, placed not in chance, but in the choreography of stars who knew our names. The universe has us. It knows exactly what we need, and it is delivering. Precisely, in the form of each other. And this, sacred, shimmering now, it's the beginning of everything that we stayed alive for. Be still, my puffy heart. The healing is already here. And so it is.